These are very dynamic and propitious days from the day of Purim, Shushan Purim, until the Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which is the beginning of the year of months. So it's a Rosh Hashanah. So it's the end of one year and the beginning of the next. And that's the snake biting its own tail, how the end starts the beginning, and it goes into a circular loop. This is why these days from Shushan Purim, or the 13, 14 days, are so important and so dynamic, and this is how you can focus in. What I'm going to tell you now is my ultimate theoretics, and it won't be much higher than this. I can guarantee you haven't heard this. And when this is understood, this theoretics will be a jumping off point for an entire new view of Judaism and of Kabbalah in general. The three highest heads of Keter are, well, the two dynamics in Keter are Atik Yomin and Eric Anpin. And in Atik Yomin, the three highest Sephirot, the Keter, Hokmah, and Bina, are called Rag Lo. That's the head that is not known. Those three Sephirot actually parallel the three heads themselves, but it's a separate head. That head is, for me, it's brought down as faith, you see. Emunah. The word emunah, it's brought down as faith. But what is emunah? That's the key. What is the word amen? What's the root of amen? So let me get back to that. Let me start off today with the second head. The second head of the seven lower Sephirot of Atik Yomin. And that's brought down in the tradition as ta'anug, pleasure. Ta'anug, pleasure, just pleasure. It's like oneg Shabbat, it's pleasure. It's an interesting thing because oneg Shabbat is the feminine. And pleasure is all feminine. Why? Because it serves the purpose of the female genitalia. A woman does not have to have an orgasm to have a child. So her entire sexuality is just for pleasure. You see? It serves no purpose in reproduction except for pleasure, ta'anug. In a certain sense, that's been brought down as the pleasure principle. And it's brought down in other psychoanalysis as jouissance. See? Jouissance. To jouir, to pleasure. Just pure pleasure. It's like play. It's jouir, it's not jouir, it's jouisse. It comes the same root, kind of. Divine play. Serving no purpose. And that's the feminine. The feminine, which is the second head of Atik Yomin, the seven lower Sephirot, is ta'anug. and that's pleasure. And that, those 7 Sephirot of Tanug are embraced by the 10 Sephirot of Eric Anpin. So the 7 lower Sephirot of Atik Yomin are embraced, encircled, covered over by, it's actually like a body over it, of Atik Yomin. And that is called Ratzon, desire. So Ratzon is the outside shell of Tanug and feeds it in a certain sense. And they feed out. Pleasure feeds Ratzon, and Ratzon feeds pleasure, and they're together. And that's desire, Ratzon. And the gematria of Ratzon, regular gematria is Shemo, 246, but if you use a final nun, it's 996 plus 4 letters, it's 1,000, and that's the Aleph. So desire is a very big principle, obviously. So desire feeds on pleasure, and pleasure feeds on desire, and they're tied. But above that are the 3 heads that are not covered. See? The 3 heads that are not embraced and covered. And that's called Radlo. Not the 3 heads, the 3 Sephirot. The upper 3 Sephirot of Atik Yomin. Now, that is called faith. But for me, that's it's a cover. I've done in previous videos, it's a sexual potency. And it turns out to be male sexual potency. Why? Emunah comes from the root amen, and the root amen comes from the root amah. Amen, Aleph Mem Nun, 50, is amah, Aleph Mem Hey, which is a 5, same level, 5 and 50. And that's the middle finger, it's the cubit, and it's the penis. So the highest thing is the male phallus, the penis, which, by the way, we wrap on the tefillin, because the 7 lower ones are from the, how you make a cubit, by the way, is from the elbow to the tip of the finger, middle finger. I think it's this hand on this cuckoo. So you wrap it 7 times, then you do the head, then you do the 3 on your finger. Those 3 on the middle finger, which is again called the Amah, which is the symbol of the penis, has 3 wrappings for the 3 heads in Radlo, 3 Sephirot in Radlo. And this penis is the whole deal. It's the amen, amen, finishing. It's penis, whether you know it or not. And in that high area there, which is called, by the way, in psychoanalysis, beyond the pleasure principle. And what's beyond the pleasure principle? The pleasure principle is the 7 of Atik Yomin, the feminine Tanug. But up in the top, it's beyond the pleasure principle. And that's the death instinct. And that comes down to us that the orgasm in French is called a petite mort, a little death, because there's a tie-in between orgasm and death. For me, that's where I get the will to lose. The will to lose is higher than the will to win, and comes from, in my opinion, Rod Lowe. The lower aspects are easy to be positive, but in the highest aspects, it's written in the negative. Rod Lowe, not. The higher aspects in that called Ein. Higher than that, Ein Sof, Ein negative. So negative principles are higher than the positive principles. We've all known that. Now, in that three heads, where the Amma is, I keep calling them heads, in the three Sephirot of Rod Lowe, where the Amma is, those three Sephirot also have a paralleling to the three heads themselves. So in other words, it's Amma of Amma, that's the Keter. And then it's Amma of Tanug in Chokmah. And Amma of Ratzon in Bina. You see? Each of these has some essence. The Tanug and Ratzon have an essence, even in Rod Lowe, in the three heads, as they accompany the Amma, the cubit, center finger principle, the bris. That's why there are three things to the bris. Three things. There's always three meals on Shabbos, three of everything, three arms, three hands, 2 and 1, 3 lines on the Sephirah, 3 heads in Chokmah, Bina, and Das. So, a reevaluation of these upper realms. The highest level is the penis, which is the first commandment, and, and why it has to be given to a man, not a woman. Because a man needs an orgasm. A woman doesn't. A woman is pure pleasure. And this is embraced, the whole thing is embraced by Ratzon. But in a certain sense, Ratzon isn't even needed. That's Atik Yomin. That's Eric Ampin. It embraces, but there's a head that's above that, and that head is pure Amam. That's it. That's pure penis. You know. And if you don't think the penis has a mind of its own, you know, which is the head, which is not a head, which is a head, which is not known and cannot be known, it has its own thought. It has its own thing that gets it hard, stimulates it. Higher than Ratzon. Higher than pure pleasure. Pure pleasure is just woman's work. You know? So this level here that I'm talking about of Emma, the Amma, the cubit, the phallus, the finger of the wrapping of the tefillin, the higher three, that's pure phallus, that's pure male sexuality. And then Tanug is pure female pleasure. And then Ratzon is what embraces these lower things and sends it down. So as it goes down into Chokmah and Bina, looks like Ratzon, you know. But above that is pleasure and sex, you know. And so, that's it. It's there. You know? Just needed somebody to say it.